Another more fragment of silicon to count.
On. I'm your host, Adam. Joining me, as always, the regular crew. Mac hasn't arrived yet. He hadn't told us anything. Granted, we haven't messaged him. But, we figured, the point is, he might be along, he might not. Not exactly sure what would be keeping him. Not even sure if he'd answer a response. You know, he could be resting because of his schedule's still out of sorts. Maybe something else. He might be eating dinner. Anyway, we'll see what happens in that regard. But first, we've got the regular cruise news. Twilight, why don't you start us off this week?
All right. Well, yeah, still nothing all that really interesting's been going on in the past week. The weather's been fluctuating between warm and cold days, and um, well, I got no issue with the current warm weather yet. I despise summer weather with a passion.
Like,
Yeah. Um, well, I've been enjoying both the cooler days and the mild days. Preferable towards colder weather though. Um, let's see here. Work's going seemingly better, honestly. It was getting kind of stressful there the past few days, but things are calming down now, thankfully. As for finding getting more people working now, yeah, that's definitely helping. Um, and we finally got vaccines in for our pharmacy, which is good. It's the Moderna, thankfully. Um, and let's see here. Yeah. Besides that, gameplay wise, gaming wise, the Overwatch sessions on Mondays are still going on. Though my internet went wonky in the middle of the session, and I was kind of out of commission for about 20, 25 minutes, something like that. Uh, Nothing else has happened since then, so must have been some odd phenomenon, or maybe it was working on it or something like that. I'm not sure. Um, but besides that, session went pretty well. Um, and yeah, been playing my game for this Sunday, and that's about it for me.
all right. Let's see. Petty, why don't you go next?
This week's been fairly uneventful. Just been.
Petty?
Eddie?
He's dead, Jim.
Well,
Hmm.
while he's sorting that out, Gollix, you can step in.
Well, my birthday was yesterday.
Happy
I was
birthday.
another year older. And I took a long weekend before it instead of just taking Tuesday off and working Monday and Wednesday. So over the weekend, I got my taxes done and I scheduled my appointment for a COVID vaccine shot, which is next week, and then the second one will be in May. So
Uh-huh.
That's good to have that out of the way. I've still been having a bit of a cough, but I think the reason for that actually turns out to be that the new blood pressure medication I'm taking has that as a side effect. So, excuse me 1 second.
Yeah, he's having a
Had a bit of
persistent cough.
So that's well, it's better to know that that's the reason, or that that's a possible reason, instead of worrying that I somehow got exposed to the stupid plague.
Definitely. So have you gotten your shots yet?
No, I just got. I'm next week in May.
Okay. Like that's right. You were having
Yeah.
some problems lining up an appointment.
Well, Maine had a later deadline until very recently.
I mean, when you're doing worse than Florida, like that's something to be ashamed about.
Well, part of the reason is because we haven't had that many cases, I think.
Fair.
So it
Like,
was less. So it was less considered less urgent or something. But anyway, it's everybody can make appointments now. But anyway,
I should hope so. All right.
so yeah, video game wise, still been playing MS Saga with Mac on Sundays. That's been continuing to be fun, even though we're not making progress every time because this is kind of a grindy game.
That's right.
He's arrived.
Yes. Like,
But other than that, nothing super fantastic new for games. There are a couple of things that I think that are on sale that I'm trying to decide whether I want to pick up. But right now, I'm trying to focus on the game that I have for this week for reviews.
mm,
And
yeah.
that's about it.
All right, Petty. Have you fixed your voice problem?
Yeah, I exist again. So far, nothing too eventful. I've been looking for a company to do our lawn this year. Because, again, fuck me trying to do that. And also still waiting to hear back from a different company to see about removing our hedges, so that we don't have to worry about that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, just been kind of vibing. I finished my twin birthday shopping for the twin, so hooray!
Oh, you actually do stuff for your twin?
Yeah.
Me and my sister have. My sister's birthday is the day after mine, so it's today, and we always just text each other.
Well, we
Right.
live together, so
Okay, I guess that would be a little bit of a thing.
Yes.
It's more of a, well, if it would be like returning it immediately, is it really worth doing something super special?
yeah, fair.
Mm.
But yeah, other
Right.
than that, just been, I've been trying to play some more Breath of the Wild. One thing I'm not a big fan of is I keep getting lost in what I need to do.
Have you found the maps?
I have a map.
Have you? I mean, for the areas you're in.
No, I don't think so.
I usually try to find get up the towers to get the maps pretty early because that helps with landmarks.
Fair.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're working on a specific quest of any sort, you can select that in the adventure log, and it will point you into a sort of general useful location.
Noted.
And just remember, Petty, getting lost is the best part of an open world RPG.
Yeah, that's also kind of the point. You find neat stuff when you get lost.
Yeah, but I also wander into a nest full of enemies that can kill me in one hit.
That is another
Not,
part of
not
the
if you get
experience.
good at dodging.
Okay.
I'm guessing that's.
Have you not learned to shield block perfectly every time? Don't worry, I'm actually pretty bad at that too.
I could barely do it on, I think it was Octoroks, the ones that shoot things at you.
Octoroks are fairly. I think for them you could just hold the shield out, but it does durability damage.
Just something like that, but
Right.
yeah, I think that's it from me then.
All right, Mac, you're up.
Oh, excuse me. I was taking a drink there. I don't know. Are we all collectively too old to be using Zoomer terms like vibing?
I'm
I'm
like,
the youngest here.
Petty fan might not be.
Yeah.
Mm,
I don't think there's anybody younger than a millennial here.
like,
Look, I'm not 30 yet. I'll still use it if I want to.
Ah, I see. Making up definitions now. It's been an interesting week, I'll say that much. I started last week doing Facebook Live gaming as an extension of Matt Paladin's Retro Gaming Emporium. And while I haven't been terribly consistent on that, I have crossed the 100 followers threshold. So I got the achievement for that. Woo! But in order to monetize, I actually need to have 10,000.
Womp womp.
God damn you, Facebook!
Yeah, that's not the kind of thing that just happens.
No, and it's not like, you know, we've talked about the ethics and efficacy of this before, but it's not like you could just buy Facebook followers that easily. Well, maybe you can, but I
You
don't know.
probably can, but it would also be expensive.
I would imagine so, especially
Right.
10,000. That's a lot.
that could also be the thing that gets noticed. Like,
Right.
all of a sudden you go from 100 to 10,000. That's not going to look natural.
Questions will be
Right.
asked.
I mean, even just organically, I noticed that I was going through my followers list on Twitch here, and there was a sizable number of shall we say anonymous accounts that I'm gonna have to sort through at some point, because I'm like, where the hell did this come from, and why did I get bombed?
I assure you, that's normal.
Yes.
Well, it's just disappointing because when you're trying to figure out how to get organic growth and stuff like that, bot follows tend to be an inhibitor towards
yeah.
towards getting noticed, because when Twitch actually looks at the percentages of followers versus the number of followers versus the percentages of people actually watching your stream, and you've suddenly got less than 10% of your followers engaging, they know, and a lot of people are going
Right.
through and purging the registers, so to speak. But that's an arduous process, because there's not just a select all option, and then you have to go through and examine each one individually and delete it. It's just not that easy. So I can only imagine how it is for much larger accounts. But yeah, but I started doing that, so we've hit a couple of milestones. It's getting a little traction. People that have otherwise not been engaging with my content are reacting to some of the stuff I'm doing over there, and I'm playing more experimental streams. So it's like the stuff that, like, for example, Kira and I obviously play APB and Overwatch, and those aren't getting a lot of traction for us on certain platforms, but APB suddenly started getting noticed for me on Facebook, and now I'm starting to get re-engagement on Twitch. So there's that. So it's all a grand experiment, but then there's other stuff that we don't play together. Like I'm eyeballing Apex Legends. Valorant is very popular on Facebook right now. And I'm somewhat interested in the game mechanics of it. It's actually a little more because it has a better group mechanic mentality built into it, because of having to mine for energy, and you can use the store to change weapons on the fly, so that you can alter the loadout of virtually any character to anything you want. And some characters have certain specialties. It's a little more complex, but at the same time, I feel like it might potentially be more rewarding.
Right.
than the just run and gun aspect of games like Overwatch. So we'll see how that turns out. And we are now approaching week 3 of my shall we say dark side endeavors. There's an event coming up, of course, that is near and dear to the hearts of the listeners and viewers of this show, and that is that we have an arrangement with Manga Gamer, specifically with John Pickett, to review some of the adult games under my alter ego on Plexstorm, and that will be where the live format is, and then a certain place that rhymes with corn flub will be hosting the video on demand portion of that, since Plexstorm no longer, or at least currently, doesn't do that. So live show on one venue, and then the replays will be available on my model site. So
anyway, so need to move to my news since we keep time here. Anyway, right. So my week's been interesting. Like, ordered a new mattress the other day, and that's coming on Saturday.
Fun.
Well, it's double the thickness of my current one, so, and it was on sale.
Hooray for sales.
Yes, and tomorrow I have to go and get my driver's license renewed. I suppose I don't have to, but I have to before my next birthday. So, like, and I have to take my mom down there as well because apparently she lost her license.
That's
Like,
not good.
She doesn't know where it went, and apparently she's been driving without a license for a fucking week.
Oh
no.
Yeah. So I'm gonna have to pick her up and get her down, but get that taken care of. Shouldn't be that hard to get a replacement license. But she's making sure she has all documentation in case they need it. Like, and that's been my week. So merrily we shall roll along to the interview portion of the broadcast. And joining us this week is Tom Wiggins of Pulseball the Game.
Hello.
Well, how are you doing tonight?
I am most excellent.
Okay. All right. So how we like to get started, we like to get to know the people behind the game and the studios and whatnot. And we start by asking this question: what got you interested in video games, both on a personal and a professional level?
Well, I grew up in a very tech illiterate household, so I didn't get my first video game until I got a Game Boy Color when it was already like old. It was probably by the time Game Boy SP came out.
Oh, geez.
And yeah, after that, it just kind of it went up. We had my household. We had a Windows 95 when Windows Vista was out.
Good lord.
So we gone up.
Wow. I'm like, that is definitely outdated technologically speaking. Like, and I suppose the question that arises from that is, at what point did that change? Did you experience, current technology when you moved away from your parents' household, or did that happen a bit before?
No. I managed to buy myself a laptop when I was about like 12, 13. And then I peaked when I was 14. I did some programming for the jailbroken app stores.
Mm-hmm.
And then I've been below that ever since.
So you've been programming and making projects for a while.
Yeah. Do you guys remember back in the OG days when jailbroken iPhones were just becoming a thing?
By reputation, I have never owned an iPhone.
That's good. But back in the OG days, there was no longer just like one jailbroken app store. There's a few of them. One of them was rockyourphone.com. I don't know if you're familiar with them at all.
Not offhand, no.
Well, I made a it was called a theme at the time, and it basically just took the iPhone lock screen and it changed it from a bunch of numbers to like whatever I wanted it to be. It changed it. I did a couple of different apps. It changed it from numbers to symbols to numbers in the wrong places, colors, stuff like that. And that stuff did really well for at least for a 14-year-old's perspective. You know, I was making $400 a month at 14. That's pretty good.
Yeah, right. So before we continue on with this line of questioning, we do have a question from the chat. Edman128 wants to know if he can ask a question, and yes, you can if you will post it. Like,
I'll allow it.
yes. But in the meantime, so what point did you move from, let's say, mobile development to PC development?
Oof, that's a loaded question. Probably a little bit after that. Yeah, I don't know. I did a lot with Game Maker when it was a thing.
Okay.
I did like some a lot of non-published stuff. I had a friend helping me actually when I was working on the iOS stuff. He was doing graphics for me that I was just programming into the keypads. So he was helping me with like a tower defense game, and that never ended up being a thing. But that's probably where it first started going on PC.
Okay. And I suppose moving forward, you know, at what point did you get to Pulseball here?
Okay, what it's April. Okay, so I started development on it probably I think it released it October. I don't know. I worked on it for about 2 months and I released it and it was terrible, and I kept working on it and now it's slightly less terrible. It's just full of bugs.
Well, I suppose backing up a bit, what inspired you to make Pulseball in the first place?
Well, I have a lot of other projects, a lot of more hardware based projects, because originally I'm an electrical engineer. So I was working on my own stuff for that, and I was just waiting on parts, and I got sick of just waiting around, not doing anything. So I had the idea for Pulseball. I was like, I'll just throw a couple of weeks into this and see how it goes, and it turned out to be pretty fun. So we kept working on it.
Right. And where did the idea of, well, I suppose before we get into the idea, what is Pulseball for those who might not be watching the Twitch screen right now? Because it is a, if nothing else, intriguing concept.
The idea of it was it started more or less as just like a fun. Eventually, I'd like to get it to be like some sort of esports that people play, similar to Rocket League, in that vein. But yeah, just like a fun esports game to casually play, nothing serious right now.
Mm-hmm. And well, like in terms of esports, this is a very unique one because this is combining an FPS with soccer. What inspired you to put these two things together?
There's no really most of my ideas aren't really inspired or anything like that. I just have an epiphany and I work on it a bit. That's about it. I just have a brilliant idea and then I just keep working on it. That's about it. Nothing's like, oh, there's no it's like, oh, if I do this, then I can do this, this, and this. It's just like it just comes and then you just do it.
Yeah. Edman128, I understand your objection to calling this soccer, but can't really call it football since, it doesn't involve the foot here. Like, just call it on a technicality.
And Gunball
But
sounds
anyway,
weird.
so yes, I guess we could call it sports ball, but
I mean, really, there are a large number of sports that are essentially there is a ball.
There's a ball.
There are
It's a
goals at
ball.
either.
It's a ball accessory. Yes, that's involved.
No, there's a ball. There's a goal at either end of the field, and the biggest significant differences in the rules are what are the size of the ball and field, and what you're allowed to use to move it.
I mean, it is conceptually at the very least, but a major difference here is, well, the number of players. Like, this is from what I understand, a multiplayer focused affair. How many people can play in a map currently?
Well, up to it could be 4v4, but you get much over like 2v2 or 3v3, and it starts getting a little cancerous. So you don't want to play it. You could play it.
Mm-hmm. I suppose. So was that through like prototyping? Like, how did you arrive at that particular number?
I just like the number. I just like the number, that and the net code for the ball moving around. It's at this point in time, it's limited. I don't have any plans to advance it until I finish up all the other features in the game.
Fair.
I mean, the gun seems to mostly add a vector to the ball's movement, and the more vectors you have being imparted at one time, potentially, the more complicated the physics equations get very quickly.
Yeah, a lot of it is just the fact that it's moving so quickly too. You have to do prediction and stuff. And what it's really good if you're playing with someone that's like a couple miles away from you. If they're more than 100 miles away from you, the latency is pretty. At least in the beginning, it was pretty awful. Now it's playable, but it's still not great.
Yeah. Are you the only developer on this project?
Yeah, I'm the only poor soul developing this project.
Well, that would explain a lot because this is fairly ambitious for a solo project. Because it's a full 3D game, and it's on Unreal Engine, which is not the easiest tool set to work with. But what made you pick Unreal as opposed to say Unity to power this game?
Well, I've done stuff with Unity before. It's some unreleased stuff, and really, it was just at the time what I wanted to do was I wanted to have something a little bit more graphics focused, and additionally, this isn't something obviously I take too seriously. It's just like a fun side project for me, and the blueprints for Unreal make it a lot easier to do that.
Right.
You don't have to do any.
So is this a project that's kind of the forerunner to another project then?
I mean, I'm definitely gonna have other games released, but this is something that's it's just a fun side project. Anything I release is gonna be totally unrelated. My plan with this is I'm getting close to features. I want to implement stats, and then after that, I'm gonna try and fix a lot of the bugs and just go from there.
Okay. And how far along in development would you say Pulseball is?
Well, just I say me just released the latest update, which included a good amount of stuff. The new game mode, which is playing right now, which I think adds a whole other dimension to it. It's a lot more real time. It's a lot more fun. Then I'm also working on VR support. As of right now, that's just supported for the training mode, which is something totally different. But I'd like to expand VR support, maybe eventually bring it to the Oculus Quest. And then beyond that, it's literally just stats, and then we'll do like tournaments every now and then. We've done that in the past. We're just building a following and having fun.
Duly noted. And so I know that the game is currently free to play. Is that an early access feature, or is it going to be always free, even when it reaches 1.0?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's even when it reaches 1.0, it's going to be too bad to charge money for. But an interesting thing with that is that I don't know if you notice in the gameplay right now, it shows a bunch of progressive ads.
Uh-huh.
As the project manager from this company reached out to me. It's called Frameplay, and they allow developers to implement intrinsic advertising like that. So those are actual real ads that I make money off of in the game. I think that was a really unique way to monetize games, so I implemented it. I don't make any money off of it really right now. I make a little bit because not so much many people playing it, but eventually going forward, it could be something that's profitable. So I'm excited about that. And I like the idea of what Frameplay is doing, so I want to support them.
Yeah. And how much more development do you think you have before you consider this Pulseball finished?
Well, I released it October. I hope by the time a year rolls by, it should be ready to be released.
Mm-hmm. And do you plan on releasing builds for Mac and or Linux, or is it Windows only?
I'm sitting on a build for Linux right now, actually, but yeah, beta testing isn't working out so great. So I need to figure out what's going on wrong with that, and then we're gonna release Linux. Mac, I'm less inclined to release on. If I happen upon a Mac at some point, I'll try and test it out, but I don't see it as something that I'm going to be doing.
Okay. And well, I think I've run through my line of questioning. I'll see if anyone else has any questions from my colleagues here.
I think I'm good.
I'm fairly satisfied, I think.
Okay. I want to thank you, Tom, for taking time out of your schedule and being with us here this week. The game, at the very least, looks interesting. Hopefully, you'll get all the kinks ironed out from the game. But I suppose that's what early access is for. In the meantime, the game is Pulseball. It's currently available on Steam for free. So if you want to give it a whirl, you can do so. And Petty, play us to the next segment. All right, so welcome to the topic of discussion. This week we are talking about Sony because, well, they're the talk of the town, so to speak. Because a Bloomberg article was published on Friday morning, and it's been quite a bit of chatter among various Twitterati, YouTube personnel, forum dwellers. And in case you missed it, it's about the current direction that Sony Worldwide Studios is facing or moving towards or already there. It's Sony is going the blockbuster route.
You mean the... Oh, sorry. You go.
Yeah. I'm like, it's quite the lengthy article that has unveiled quite a few things about the innards of what's being thought of in Sony, and it definitely goes along the lines of other things we've seen from the PlayStation brand in recent times. The
You're saying it's thematically consistent with the... I saw a PS2 Gran Turismo game the other day, and it looked like shit. Why would anybody ever want to remember that something like that existed?
Yeah. Not just that.
Not just that, but that's part of it.
No, yeah, that's about Sony's not giving a shit about the past. It's also
Right, but it's thematically consistent with the big fancy thing good, small less fancy thing who care.
right, and that gets into what they did with Japan Studio. You know, the developer of all the quirky games that Sony has put out over the years. You know, Patapon and fucking Ape Escape and the Jumping Flash. Granted, I'm not sure if like that was also outsourced, but you know, Japan Studio had a lot of oversight. You know, it's also the development studio that housed Team Eco, and Team Siren, um, and so on and so forth. And you know, that's been restructured around Team Asobi, the developer of the Playroom games, the Astrobot games. Fine titles, but it's a bit odd to structure an entire studio around one team. And you know, Japan Studios bled a lot of talent. This particular article has shed new light into what's going on in some of the Western studios. There, like, it started out naming this auxiliary studio that's it's like something like visual effects. It's got a really long, boring name. And as far as a development studio goes, it doesn't actually have an official designation, you know, because apparently Sony never seen them as an official studio, even though they are doing help in the development work as they usually do. Because so they wanted to, like, to summarize, they wanted to do a real game. They wanted to develop their own game, or rather, they wanted to develop a game. And in order to do that, they decided to do a remake. They, you know, and what they decided on remaking was something from Naughty Dog. You know, apparently they went through the process of, you know, like, what about the Uncharted games? Apparently they felt that was a little too old to remake, even though that's kind of the point of remaking things.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm like, so, you know, they chose The Last of Us because apparently that felt modern enough to bring to the PlayStation 5 with not that amount of effort. Like, and
Yeah, 'cause that's in fucking remaster territory. You don't need to fucking remake it. You can just like touch it up a bit.
yeah, and apparently this, you know, this, you know, the Last of Us is getting a remake is apparently pissed off everybody because, you know, it's under a decade. Yeah, you know, it's like you know, it's taking away from developing a new game or a new Last of Us game, or, you know, insert reason to get mad here. And you know what? I'll be honest, I just can't muster up the emotion over getting pissed off at, you know, The Last of Us being remade. You know, like there have been so many titles remastered. Like, people are going to have to accept the fact that remastering is just part of the landscape now.
Like, is it the best choice? Probably not. Is it that big of a deal? Also, probably not.
It's also, you know, a strange set of circumstances because it's this new team that wanted to remake The Last of Us, which, by the way, in corporate structures, this was how do I put this? This was stepping on some toes. You know, it wasn't in the article, but just what I know about big AAA developers and how they work, um, it is absolutely no fucking surprise that Naughty Dog stepped in and took it over. You know, in fact, it's kind of shocking that this team got a green light on this because The Last of Us isn't, you know, isn't like, say, the Mark of Creed, or, you know, there are a ton of PlayStation games from previous generations that I could name that are forgotten and probably wouldn't have aroused any ire or suspicion or territory.
Or
But, you know, yeah. But no, they picked one of Sony's biggest franchises, one of their biggest games ever, to remake. And once again, the article didn't say it, but I'm suspecting that the team ran into trouble or was doing something off about it. Because this stuff happens in the industry. And especially, we're talking about The Last of Us. It's seen as a very prestigious title to both Naughty Dog and Sony. And Naughty Dog is one of the Sony studios that has basically carte blanche to do whatever the fuck they want. So one of the things that remakes and remasters have run into in the past is some new developer coming in and fucking things up. I'm not saying that this team was on track to do that or whatever. We don't know. But it wouldn't surprise me if Naughty Dog felt that they were doing this in some fashion.
I can understand. I'm a little in the weeds on this topic this week, but I can understand, a lot of people's concerns about The Last of Us 2, given the wide scope of the storyline. But The Last of Us is a 2014 masterpiece, if I may be so bold. So remaking it seems a little odd.
Well, yeah, that's kind of where my perspective is. It's more people are mad that The Last of Us is getting remade at all because it is a game from 2014. You got a PlayStation 4 remastering.
Yeah, I mean, I got the card when I bought my PS4, and so I mean, I still have it installed on my PS4. I haven't played it all the way through, but
yeah, it's just the choice wasn't from Naughty Dog. It's from this new team that decided to, remaster one of Sony's most prestigious and best-selling games. And, we don't know the details of why Naughty Dog took over the project, but we know they did. And it's probably a combination of Naughty Dog did not like the work that was being done on the remake, because I will guarantee you, Naughty Dog was going to be very territorial with their game. This happens a lot even if like developers are owned by the same company, they might not necessarily allow their game that they worked on be accessed by other teams.
Yeah.
So
and to be honest, and to be frank with you, I mean, if we're kind of connecting this to the topic from previously when we were discussing the shutdown of the PSN stores for older consoles and the handhelds and stuff like that, this becomes an interesting archiving question too, because it's like, as you pointed out earlier in the discussion, there are many more titles that are worthy of archival status than this. I mean, technically, if you really want to get down to it, this game is still technically active. People still purchase it for realsies. It's not like it fell into the dumpster or something.
Well, I mean, and I think that gets into the other reason why Naughty Dog continued to pursue the project. They know it'll sell.
Right.
And that's kind of the overarching theme of the article, because it doesn't just touch on what Naughty Dog has done in regards to this new studio. It's also what they've been doing with Sony Bend, most notably the developer of Days Gone. But they are a long time Sony studio, one of Sony's oldest at this point. They didn't start out as a Sony studio. They began as a company called Eidectic, the developer of Upsy 3D, of all things. But they quickly moved on from that to make the Siphon Filter series. Wow. And then after a successful run there, they went to portable development, doing games in the Resistance and Uncharted franchises, and then they moved back to the big leagues with Days Gone. And apparently, and apparently the problem there is, first of all, Sony had rejected their pitch for Days Gone 2, even though Days Gone it was a profitable game. Right. But the problems on Sony's end were twofold. First, that the development process took a long time, because Sony Bend is actually one of their smaller studios because it's a studio located in Bend, Oregon. It's not exactly a large place to live. Like Bend, Oregon's current claim to fame is having the last blockbuster on Earth. I'm not even joking about that. Like, so Sony felt that the team wouldn't be able to staff up to make a Days Gone 2 in a proper amount of time in their estimation, especially for the PlayStation 5. And it's also they weren't high on the Metacritic score. I'm like, yeah, I really wish that game companies would not pay so much attention to Metacritic aggregate score, but they do. And
especially given what people do with aggregate sites like that.
Well, it's like, for fuck's sakes, bonuses have been tied to Metacritic scores. Obsidian famously missed their bonus on Fallout New Vegas because they were short 1 point. Like,
bullshit.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It was bullshit. Yeah, it was bullshit then. It's bullshit now. I don't know if anyone's still tying money to Metacritic scores, but clearly development is still tied to that. Sony felt, the game was basically, too long in development and not good enough to warrant a sequel. So apparently, then they got assigned to doing the multiplayer component of a new Uncharted project. And yeah, that's another weird turn because, well, it's like Uncharted 3, I think, had multiplayer. But it's not really renowned for its multiplayer.
Right.
Like it's apparently it was good multiplayer at that, but it's just not one of those titles that's known for its multiplayer. Ditto The Last of Us. I think there's a Last of Us multiplayer thing coming on the pipeline as well. See, this is the other thing that people are getting mad about Naughty Dog about. It's all Uncharted. It's all The Last of Us. It's like there's nothing new here. And there's a deepening worry that Sony is kind of turning into, say, Xbox 360 era Microsoft, up to like pre-buyout spree Xbox One. Another fucking Halo game, another fucking Gears of War, another fucking Fable game until they stop making those, another fucking Forza game. Just focusing on the core franchises and squeezing out all the smaller games. I am of mixed opinion of
this. So Nintendo in the Wii U era.
I can't rightfully agree with that, if only because they greenlit Bayonetta there, and The Devil's Third. But
all right.
Yeah, like I said, it's more like what Microsoft used to do. Before they added 12 developers.
One could argue that Nintendo actually went in the opposite direction and had forsaken their franchises for a long time, which was one of the big reasons that they had so many flops between 2000 and 2018.
Anyway, the point is that Sony is getting less focused on games like, say, The Unfinished Swan or Pain or The Puppeteer or Tearaway or, Concrete Genie, which was only a couple years ago. And more on these, $100 million blockbusters. To that, I say it depends on the studio. Because, yeah, I can definitely see, Naughty Dog and Guerrilla Games, the developer of Horizon Zero Dawn, granted, they are only in the second game of their particular franchise. And it's also, the downside to not greenlighting a Days Gone 2 is, Days Gone was rough around the edges. You know what helps in smoothing out rough edges? Another game. There's a reason why the second or third game in a game series is usually considered to be the best, because it's why they they've gotten a chance to iron out things, figure out what works, and so on and so forth. Rarely do you hear, the first game in the series was the best, just because of how technology works. And to that, I say this ignores an entire segment of what PlayStation is doing right now. And that is VR. PlayStation, Sony, they're the only console maker who's currently invested in the VR space. And fortunately or unfortunately, this is kind of where a lot of their smaller experiences, even where some of their studios are oriented toward. Because just due to the nature of VR right now, it's not really, unless you're fucking Valve, you're not really building a AAA experience for VR. And, at once it's commendable that, they are supporting VR, because really, if they don't, nobody else will. Microsoft is not in the VR space. Nintendo is not actually in the VR space. No, I do not count the Labo VR goggles as actual VR. But it's also, not everybody is kind of into VR. But it does take resources. And there aren't that many Sony studios. Getting back to Sony Bend, there does seem to be a happy, I won't say end, because the thing that they are developing on is in development, but they are working on a new game. So that is good, because it's one thing to marginalize a new team of developers who might not necessarily have the skill set to be working on a AAA title. Sony Bend has a very long history, and apparently the treatment of that studio was so bad that the studio heads left in recent times. So, and keep in mind, this is not existing in a vacuum either. Once again, it does dovetail to Sony not giving a shit about their PlayStation 3, PlayStation Vita, and PlayStation Portable lineage. And not, shunting Japan studio into the VR and the quirky Astrobot team. Once again, not saying those are bad games, but Japan studio used to produce so much more than that. And it's also, this is how you get stagnation if all you're focusing on is just the big hits. How do you get new hits? Oh, right, by doing new things. And that gets into why people are upset about The Last of Us getting remade. And I'm pretty sure this is probably not going to be the last time we talk about wayward directions that Sony is making. What those might be, I can guess, like turmoil at, say, their London studio, which is their primary VR developer. Maybe a problem going on in Insomniac, Media Molecule. Like I said, Sony currently has 14 or 15 studios right now. So that's a lot of drama to be had. But we'll visit that when we have to come to it. So that'll about do it for this installment of Fragments Silicon. The week ahead. So in about a little over a half an hour, we will be doing a new episode of Last News Desk on the Left. It will be our season finale, and we'll be taking, as far as I know, the standard 2-week break, though not to worry. We do have some special plans for the Black Label show, let's say.
Indeed, and I'm guessing that's why you were kind of bums rushing me through that earlier, is because you wanted to cover it at the end here.
Yeah. we like to do the show stuff at the end here.
Right.
Keep it all. But yeah, I suppose we can talk a bit about the plan, which is the next 2 Tuesdays. Mac and I will be teaming up to cover Manga Gamer and interview John.
Right, and that's the plan. And I need to, of course, get a hold of him to confirm, of course, that he'll be able to do that. Otherwise, we may do 2 reviews and then an interview. So,
right, John is he may take a while, but he's usually reliable before an interview happens.
Well, my plan is this: on Tuesday, we're gonna don the black label over at Plex Storm, and I'll put on my Maze Palladino gear, and we're gonna review Rance Magnum, which is one of the games that I have the code for. And I think that will be a good starting point for us because it's a meaty RPG that has some good stuff in it.
Yeah, yeah. And anyway, getting back to Fragments of Silicon, we do have a Friday show this week on Friday, April 16th. I'm going to attempt to pronounce this, and I may completely butcher it again. Polish names. Well, actually, Galix, how do you pronounce this? Or how would you pronounce this? Or how did you pronounce it on Sunday? Like, hang on. Let me put it in the thing. Yeah, how do you pronounce this?
Probably Maciej Miaszek.
Right.
We'll definitely.
I'm not sure.
I'm diving deep into my Czech ancestry myself. We have a common language root there.
Yeah,
that sounds about right.
Yeah, we'll definitely ask him before we go to broadcast to make sure that Polish names are not my forte, like to say the least. But anyway, he is of movie games. We'll be talking about a trio of titles: Lust from Beyond, Gas Station Simulator, Early Days, and Drug Dealer Simulator. We'll probably have Gas Station Simulator on display. Anyway, and on the Sunday reviews, we have reviews planned for Ember Knight Solitaire, Warshmallows, Quintera Impressions, early access game, and Cossack Jack. So that's the schedule. Until, let's say, about a half an hour from now, I shall wish you good gaming.